Yeah, it started with passion, and that's one thing I think we've got in the North East. We've got passion, and we've got good people. So it started with a team of good people with a passion, with a vision. They created something quite simple in the region, got television involved so it could become visible outside the region, and from that it's grown nationally and then internationally. And what we're now doing is looking at the classic of brand extension. So not just staying in running, you'll have seen from that, one of the reasons of showing that video was we're extending to lots of other areas, such as dance, swimming, cycling, gym. So, and those areas allow us to extend the great brand into different new markets.
Yeah. But when you are starting in a new market, that must be tough. You haven't got the heritage and the tradition. You might have the name, but you know, how much does Australia know about an event that happens in Newcastle?
Yeah, I mean, you just
so when you're starting from scratch, what are the main issues and obstacles and challenges that face you?
You're just spending to get cut through. I mean, you know, we don't, with our events, we're a commercial company, and we will not make any profit on an event for at least 3 to 4 years. These are long-term investments. So in Australia, we're just spending money on all the classic things you would do to get visibility and get cut through, but that's advertising. And what we try to do is to use personalities as much as possible, because those personalities will also get you ink. So it's all about spending money to make sure you get cut through and you get visibility. And that's all we're doing in Australia now. Right. Until the point where you get, actually, the thing becomes self-perpetuating. So it gets famous, it gets its TV, and it creates its own advert. The Great North Run, we spend absolutely nothing on advertising the Great North Run. It's advertised because every year we've got that BBC TV can expose it to a national audience who then also want to get in. 92,000 people tried to get into the Great North Run last year to get 52,000 places. So there's plenty of demand out there to come in, and that's why we went to a ballot, because you know, creating a ballot at least made it fair to try to get people to the event.
And it's my excuse for not running it every single year.
Well, I always have a couple of entries that I can, you know, there's always a couple of entries. I mean, I do have a few perks as the MD.
I don't think so. The Great Activity Programme, you were talking about brand extension. Can you tell us a little bit more detail about that?
Yeah, what we've done now is we've obviously got the Great Programme, if you want, and it's in all those different sporting areas. And we've now created something called Take to the Streets, which is a social campaign. So you've got the great brand, if you want, that we do the marketing with, and then we've got a social campaign. Take the Streets is there to say to people, really, look, there's a massive problem with people getting fatter, obesity is increasing every day, and you know, there's going to be the actual facts of it are that the kids now will live less time than we do. So you've got a decreasing length of time that people are going to live. And something's got to happen about that. So what we've done is we've created a social campaign called Take the Streets. Now, this is very much designed to engage with government, because government's important as well in terms of what we do. Because those sponsors I've talked about, Bupa and Nike and Nokia, all want to be engaged in health and fitness. And an important part of that is obviously to work with government in that and to be seen to be doing the right thing, to be seen to be socially engaged. That whole thing of corporate social responsibility is a massive message now out there in the marketplace. Companies have empires built on corporate social responsibility. So we've built this social campaign called Take the Streets, and that sits as an umbrella across the top of the great runs and the great events. So you've got the great events, and you've got over the top of it, Take the Streets, which is this whole thing about getting Britain active. Now, the key thing with that is that doesn't just have to be about our events, it could be about other events. So, for instance, the Bristol Half Marathon's joined that. You know, we've got different events around the country which aren't owned by us, but all want to take part in this social campaign. So it's, if you want, it's building a bigger picture about people getting active and getting off their backsides effectively.
And obviously contributing to the long-term growth of the company and the event.
Absolutely.
And all the things
it's a big area for us, corporate social responsibility, because we're one of those brands that gives people a nice feeling. You can see it, it's visible, it's people taking part, it's people taking a challenge. And I think that's an important part of what the brand's about.
We have a couple of minutes left, and I know that David has to shoot out before everybody else.
I've got to do some more training, I'm afraid. I feel a bit embarrassed actually sitting here. I've sucked my stomach in now for about 15 minutes. So
Does anybody
I wasn't
have any
brought
questions?
into the business for looking good and fit. So.
Does anybody have any particular questions for David before we wrap up? No?
There's one up there, look. Thanks. Saved by the...
Oh, right in front of the light. Bear with me one second. If you could just let us know your name and affiliation before you ask your question as well, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Hello, Paul Lancaster from the P&E Group, formerly known as Project Northeast. I was just wondering if there was any danger of diluting the brand as you move into the other countries around the world and possibly lose what makes the Great North Run special.
Dilution as against diversification.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very good question. There's always a risk of that. I personally think as long as we always say it's based on that original formula, as long as the Great North Run is always the showcase and where it came from, and I think we're making that, it's a bit like Coca-Cola in a way. We're saying the original syrup, where this all came from the northeast of England was, this is where it started, and the Great North Run will always be the original. It'll always be the best, it'll always be the original. And that's what we're hoping to take out there, take that formula to other geographies. So I think as long as we keep referring back to it, as long as we make sure we don't take our eye off the ball, and that's a very good point, because as you start to go to all these other countries, you can become a bit, well, some of them are warmer, aren't they, than the northeast, so you can fall in love with them. But, Brendan is committed to the northeast, he's committed to the Great North Run, and that will always be where that original formula started, so it'll always be the best and the biggest.
Okay, and just finally, before you shoot off, what's next?
What's next?
What's next, yet, for Nova, for the Great North Run?
Well, 2012 is a fantastic opportunity for all of us. And Nova want to be in that 2012 journey. But we don't want to necessarily take everything to London for 2012, because London's going to get a lot anyway. We want the North East to become the star in the 2012 journey. So I can only tell you now that the Great North Run that happens in 2012, which we're already planning now, will be something that you will not believe. It will be a real sort of extravaganza. It'll really be something of a legacy that the Olympics will give to the region. So we're going to work with the Olympics, but we're going to work on behalf of the region, and we're going to create something in 2012, which I think you'll all be very proud of. Fingers crossed.
Brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would join me in putting your hands together for the lovely David Newton. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
You better take a move. See you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.